Has never been a better time to start living the American dream.
But despite what the president claims, the famous American dream is far from being achieved. 40 million people are living below the poverty line, and millions of workers will go to great lengths to stay above it.
To get money, are you familiar with plasma? Okay. I do that twice a week.
Becoming homeless overnight is what these Americans fear most, because here, the system is not very kind to those short of cash.
Everybody keeps saying it's going to get better. How is it going to get better? Our economy is so fucked that I work a full-time job. I make $21 an hour working 40 hours a week.
60% of the American public is about to lose everything they have. People living paycheck to paycheck are about to go broke. The GDP numbers came in yesterday, and of course the economy receded, which I predicted 2 months ago, and people laughed. Mark my words, the second quarter is going to be far worse. Tariffs on Chinese products at 145% are about to kick in, which means everything you buy from China on Amazon or elsewhere is about to go through the roof. Grocery store shelves are starting to empty at Walmarts across the country, and of course grocery prices continue to soar. People who've been financing groceries on credit are starting to default on those payments. We are about to see an economic catastrophe. If you're in this 60% that has little or no money, please stop spending money. Protect your family. Trump does not care about you. Even if you voted for him, he's a billionaire. He won't suffer, but you and your family will. Please protect yourself. 60% of the American public.
So first, the face of poverty in reality looks very different than some people's perception.
Well, let me put a finer point on it. They think poverty is black and Latino and Hispanic people in this country. But poverty also includes a lot of white people in America.
You want to know how poor white Americans are treated underneath the post about white privilege. All right, let's get into it. Poor white folks are screwed by the system too, no doubt. Poor white Americans face poverty, unemployment, crappy health care, and a failing education system. It's tough, it's brutal, and it's wrong. But guess what? You're not also dealing with systemic racism on top of all of that. White privilege doesn't mean you're living in luxury. It means that you don't have the added weight of racial discrimination. You don't have to worry about being shot by the police at a disproportionate rate for looking too suspicious. You're not getting followed around stores just because of your skin color. You're not getting your job applications thrown out because they sound too ethnic. That's the privilege right there. It's the shit you don't have to think about every damn day. Imagine being poor and then on top of that, facing a world that is rigged to suspect, ignore, and punish you based just on the color of your skin. That is what people of color have to deal with. The system is screwing everyone, but it's got an extra special screw job for people of color. So, poor white Americans are treated like crap, absolutely. But they're not getting the double whammy of poverty plus racial discrimination. That's what white privilege is. It's not a get out of jail free card. It's the absence of a second set of chains. Open your eyes and see the whole picture. The system is broken for everyone, but for some, it's downright brutal.
Poverty's traumatizing. I've been struggling. Welcome to the struggle bus. Population me. I work in public health, and I work with individuals who live in poverty. It is what it is. I actually love my job. Love it. Would do it for free if I could afford to. I'm middle-class cheap girl here. You see my posts about middle-class cheap girl outfit of the day. I didn't grow up middle class. I didn't grow up middle class at all. And I'm not talking working class, middle class, broke. I grew up poor. Poor. Poverty is horrible. It's horrible. It is a horrible place to be. There was a period with my parents where we were homeless. We lived in a tent. We stayed in a crappy hotel. We sofa surfed. I was probably about 15 at the time. You know, the panic of when the car starts making a noise. How are you going to fix it? You know, how is mom going to get to work if the car breaks down? Because even though we don't have much, we will lose everything if mom can't get to work. You know, brother is sick. Mom has to go to work. She doesn't get sick time. So guess who's staying home from school with sick little brother? You know, and it's never ending. It's like there's no escape. You know, you'll take 2 steps forward just to have 3 things hit you in the face. You know, you'll save a little bit of money to have whatever breaks cost 4 times of the amount of money you were able to save. And you have nothing. You have nothing. You have shoes falling off your feet. You live in Narnia up here, and it's freaking cold, and you don't have a warm coat, and your fingers turn freaking blue when you go out and wait for the school bus. And then you go to school, and the kids make fun of you because you smell bad, because you don't have running water, and you're hungry because there's no food at home. And you're worried about your brother who is at home because he's not school-aged yet. And you worry about your mom because your mom's with an individual who's mean to her. And you worry about when you get home, are you going to have to listen to your stepdad talk to you about how stupid and lazy and no good, worthless you are, while your brother's running around naked, eating a can of cream-style corn because it's the only thing that was in the house, and the heat isn't working in the house because nobody got the fire going, and all the firewood is still outside soaking freaking wet. So when you do climb it...
Hello brothers and sisters, welcome back to the channel. I'm hoping that you are doing great from wherever you watch me from. I'm your host and presenter Agent Stories. Let's have a chat in regards to this. I think we are in the last stages of capitalistic features of the United States, and it's inevitable. This was here with us like long time ago. We have people that saw this before, and they were trying to warn people about all this. They were trying to warn people to secure food security. They were trying to warn people to hold cash. They were trying to want people to find ways of starting to have their own food, like planting their own food because of this economic situation. What you need to understand with this economy is that people are losing it, especially white people, because they are drowning in poverty. They are drowning in poverty, and it becomes, the United States is so much disillusioned that the moment you go there, that you have in the American dream, it dies instantly, because the adversities that you go through, as a person, becomes so much difficult for you to even bear. So as the saying goes, you need to understand that it is so much important that you understand that the fall of the United States is here. And majority of the people that are getting the hit are white people. Why am I saying so? Because they had systems that insulated them. They had systems that ensured that they were okay. The system that didn't look out for other black people. For them, they thought that for you to be on food stamps, they thought that for you to be on this welfare, you were lazy and you depended on government for you to get help. But as time goes, we get to see that majority of them also need the same damn help that they thought that immigrants and black people got. So brothers and sisters, I'm inviting you to watch this video. As you know, I'm your host and presenter Agent Stories, and if you're watching me for the first time, I'm asking you to please subscribe to the channel, join the membership, and really get to see what I can offer you. For those always supporting my channel, I'm really grateful for the support that you're giving me. But until then, let's watch the video. I'll be back, and then I'll be sharing my thoughts in regards to this. So let's watch the video. I'll be back.
And with your no gloves and your no boots and your shoes that are falling off and your coat that isn't warm enough, you can't get the frickin' fire started because the wood's still frickin' wet. So you have an electric stove that you turn it on to heat with, and it doesn't really warm things. Then you finally, at the end of the day, climb into bed and you feel something weird under you, and you look down and there's a frickin' mouse in the bed because the mouse is just trying to stay warm too. So it climbed under the covers. And it's every day. Every day. There's no end. It's over and over and over, and there's no end. And it's like you're on a hamster, just running on a freaking hamster wheel, and there's never going to be anything different, and there's never going to be any change. And that is poverty. That's poverty. And I'm very thankful to be a broke middle class girl right now. You know, the groceries are pissing me off, but we have food in our belly. Tonight, made a zucchini chicken mushroom dish over rice, homemade Chinese food. I'm sad because I'm craving, like, takeout Chinese food. But we have money to make homemade Chinese food and skills to make homemade Chinese food. But just being in that conference just rips off the scab that is still there of poverty. The traumatizing scab of poverty. And I know most of the people I grew up with are still there. So I feel guilty too for leaving poverty. I feel so blessed that I had the chance to go to college and marry somebody who took care of us, who was a partner in life. But so many people I went to high school with never left it. So I'm struggling right now with guilt and sadness and panic and anxiety from American poverty.
I have no extra expenses, no bills out of my living. I have one credit card that's maxed because I've lived off of it, but other than that, I don't have cable. I haven't had cable in 10 years. We have cell phones, but, you know, that's required to live on. But other than that, nothing extra. On paper, my bills are $2,701. My income is $2,710. Do the math. $9 a month before I pay for food, gas, car repairs, any entertainment. There's no money for that. And my car is dying. It's paid for, so I don't have car payments now that I'm going to replace. And I don't know how to do that on $9 a month. $9 to feed myself, $9 to buy a car, $9 for insurance. Yeah. So at the end of the day, this is me because I worked 8.5 hours a day, knowing that it's not enough, that it won't be enough. Fuck you, Ontario.
Can we talk about how miserable white people are for a second? Like, you know that white people are miserable, right? Like, have you ever looked a white person in the eye, even if they're like a big mental health person? You just look deep down and you're like, brother, you are not happy at all. And truly, it breaks my heart. But one reason, I think, one of the main reasons that a lot of white people, a lot of us are really unhappy and miserable is because we lack internal congruence. Now, congruence is a concept we learned early in grad school to help people heal. And congruence is basically internal alignment. Values and actions are on the same page, right? Like, we accept every part of ourselves. We feel peace, security in who we are, congruence. And no matter how hard you try, you can never find internal congruence if you're not congruent with the world around you. If you're not understanding what's real and seeing reality and affirming what's true. So like white people who deny patriarchy and capitalism's negative effect and oppression of the world and genocide that's happening around the world, like that's incongruent with reality. That is going to have an effect on us internally. Because to deny what's happening in real time, we have to deny certain parts of us, certain emotions, certain thoughts that come up. And the more we run for that, the more incongruent and separate we feel, the more dissonance that comes, the more miserable we are. And a lot of times we're not actually dealing with our own pain and our own reality because we're all suffering under capitalism and white supremacy. Like, it affects us different ways, in intersectionality, but like, it affects us white people too. You don't think a stormtrooper in the fucking Star Wars movies hates his life? You don't think he hates being bossed around all the time? You don't think poor white people living in the empire, like in a city walls, like in a Game of Thrones, like, you don't think that they're miserable under it, even though they're not miserable the most? To be congruent inside, to not be miserable anymore, it takes accepting the realities of the world, seeing how those toxic systems affect us, and then moving to actually be congruent. Because deep down, humanity has goodness at its center. So yeah, white people, we're miserable because we're not congruent, because we're denying the realities of the world, and thus denying ourselves.
Conservatives and anyone who believes in right-wing ideology are really pitiful people. Look at it this way. We live in such a cultural and historically rich world. There are 195 countries in the world with so much beautiful music, cuisine, amazing art and history, and amazing people. And so rather than embracing this vast, beautiful earth that we live on, conservatives have chosen to make their world small, to live in this delusional reality where there has to be hierarchy amongst countries and cultures. And as someone who's traveled to more than 30 countries now, I think it's one of the most pathetic things ever. Because what I've learned from traveling and speaking to people from all over the world is that there are so many beautiful things that link us together as people. I remember when I first moved to Germany and I was learning German, and I found a linguistic connection between German and Jamaican patois. So in Jamaican patois, we say shub, which means push. And I remember one day in my German class, we learned the word for push, which is schubst. And I was like, that can't be a coincidence. So I decided to Google it, and I learned that there is this German-Jamaican connection where Western Germans moved to Jamaica after slavery was abolished and ran plantations there. And that's why we have Germantown in Jamaica. And a lot of white Jamaicans have German ancestry. And there were so many times where I was living in different countries or even traveling, and I saw a type of food, a piece of art that reminded me of somewhere else. And an integral part of traveling for me is sharing parts of my culture and perspectives with other people. But what you'll find with a lot of right-wing people is that they have a weakened sense of self. Their cultural identity is extremely weak, and this is why they have to rely on the hierarchy and the subjugation of others to feel like they have some sort of belonging in the world. They can only experience belonging by feeling better than someone else. Whereas a lot of us who have strong cultural ties, we don't need that hierarchy because a lot of us already know who we are. We have a strong sense of culture and belonging. And I think it is one of the most privileged things to have. Going through this world with open eyes and open arms and fully experiencing life for what it was meant to be. Beautiful. Not this miserable existence being plagued by hatred, but it's really hatred for themselves that they love to project onto other people.
Just finished a morning run, sweating bullets, but I have to say this while I'm thinking about it. Almost every week, I see someone ask the question, why are white men so angry? And while I cannot begin to expound on the many reasons why that might be, what I can say is this: I view all social problems through a lens of societal systems, because as a sociologist, that's what I'm trained to do. And here is the design flaw in systems of privilege. When you build systems of hierarchy and privilege, when you build systems of hierarchy and privilege, the privilege is actually what weakens you. The privilege makes you weak because when you socialize an entire group of people to believe that I exist, therefore I deserve. I exist, therefore I am entitled. I exist, therefore the path of prosperity should be laid out very cleanly ahead of me, and I don't have to work hard, and I don't have to struggle, and I don't have to dig deep. I just have to receive. Meanwhile, you are socializing all other groups to survive with less resources, with less privilege. And so as a byproduct of their survival, they are becoming adaptable, resilient, creative, resourceful. They are developing the muscle for survival that they subsequently turn into systems for success and prosperity. Meanwhile, the privileged group is not developing these systems. And when they start to see the disenfranchised group becoming stronger, gaining opportunities, building systems of success, rather than say, hey, maybe we ought to be doing that too, no. Privilege doubles down. Privilege digs deep into the well of anger and grievance and says, You are the reason why I can't be successful. You are taking opportunities away from me and my children and generations. And so now, rather than develop the muscle of resilience, what I'm going to do now is start taking privileges away from you. And now I'm going to start taking your resources. And now I'm going to start burning your house down in hopes that you will get back to where I think you ought to be, which is underneath me. Not realizing that the more you do that, the more privileges you take away, the more systems of success you try to dismantle, you are only making them more creative, more adaptable, more resilient, and more resourceful. So it becomes this Ouroboros, this snake eating its own tail, because the very system that you designed to uplift yourself is actually the one that is putting you far behind, because you never develop the muscle, the work ethic, the resilience, the innovation, and the creativity as the disenfranchised group.
So it's being said that young white men have been radicalized because they've been disenfranchised. And there's some truth to that. But I believe that their disenfranchisement has been the result of the unfulfilled promises of privilege. Like, their complaint is that, I'm 27, I'm 30 years old, and I have no financial, economic, or romantic prospects. And newsflash, that's literally what people of color and marginalized groups have been complaining about for decades, for generations, about their lack of prospects in this country. That has actually actively led to their disenfranchisement, well, our disenfranchisement, because I'm one of them. But we worked and we learned our way out of that so that we wouldn't be in position where we elected into leadership our actual oppressors. See, young white men don't view or identify older white males as their oppressors because they look like them, because they're their dads and their uncles. But unfortunately, the fact that those promises of privilege have not been fulfilled for them, that the entitlement that they have been raised in, and ingrained within them, the fact that all of this is yours and for you, and as divine by the will of God, and none of it should you have to work for, which is part of what their complaint is. And they don't want a competitive space in a competitive world. The chant in Charlottesville, Jews will not replace us. This fear of being replaced because in a competitive marketplace, you haven't been bred for generations to compete. You have been told that you were entitled to all of it, and it is your birthright. So you haven't competed. You haven't improved yourself. You haven't built skills to put you in a place to compete with the people of color who have been told their whole lives for generations twice as hard for half as much. But again, the radicalization of these young white males is just the unfulfilled promises of privilege. But now you find yourself in a space where you are facing the same world as the groups that have been marginalized by your fathers and your grandfathers. So I think the solution is to actually find yourself unifying with these marginalized groups who have worked so hard to scale and achieve. And I know that's a big blow to your ego, because you've been told your whole life and for generations that they are less than you, that they are beneath you, that they are inherently genetically inferior to you, which I understand how that contributes to your rage, because these people who you have been told and made to believe are inferior to you have accelerated far beyond you. But that's not their fault, because they were never told that they deserved all of it by birth. It's the fault of your fathers and your grandfathers who withheld this from you. No immigrant took your job. Your father and your grandfathers and your uncles gave them to them. They preferred them to you because they will work harder for less money. The solution for you is to work harder and to unify with these people so that we all can live in a competitive society with fair compensation for fair work. And right now you're at a point in history where you have the choice to either unify with the oppressed or identify with the oppressors. Make the right choice.
Y'all want to know one real reason why America's crashing out like crazy right now? Mediocrity don't hit like it used to, baby. See, once upon a time in America, you could be real mid and still thrive. Mediocre effort, boom, you get a house, car, annual vacation, pension, hell, maybe even a boat. You could clock in, coast through the week, grill on Sundays, and still retire with dignity. But that era is dead and gone, baby. And instead of leveling up or adapting, they're mad, they're bitter, and they're not even blaming the billionaires. They blaming you. They have the audacity to blame me. They blaming immigrants, black people, queer folk, anyone they think is taking something that used to be theirs by default. See, they don't want equality. They want comfort. And when mediocrity no longer gets them that comfort, they start rewriting the rules to rig the game again. It ain't about fairness. It's about preserving the lie. The lie that being average should still be enough for them.
So the white Americans are in Mexico as usual, causing problems for the Mexican citizens there. I mean, How dare you go to someone else's country to retire? Because you're a guest, literally. You're a guest there. This is not your home. You're there, you're retired, whatever you're doing, vacation, and then y'all go there and complain about what they do every day that's a part of who they are, their culture, and their way of life, because it inconveniences you. And then now some of y'all upset that they're taking to the streets and protesting your existence in their country. Your existence there. They're destroying your properties that you have built, the businesses that you've built there, that's driving their economy up, the cost of living up for them. And y'all upset. Go Mexico, keep up the good work.
Can someone please explain to me why conservative white men feel they are under attack in the United States? Because the last time I checked, every single U.S. president has been a man. Only one of those men has been a man of color. White men have never been enslaved in this country. White men have never been denied their right to vote in this country, nor has that ever been on the fucking table. Just because people want the same rights that you've always had doesn't mean that you're the victim.
Yeah, and you're starting to see the same trend, frankly, across the West Coast states and some of the big cities, especially on homelessness. The policy on homelessness, for the most part, is to let homeless people do what they want without any consequences. And when they're ready to ask for help, that's when we'll give it to them. A lot of this is being fueled, the homeless crisis, by unaddressed mental health issues, drug addiction. These are not folks who are just going to willingly raise their hands and say, I need help. We are enabling them, and that's why you've seen this problem
poor white people.
So dramatically.
Poor white people. This is America.
And unless you're
okay?
going to have a policy
this is America.
This seriously, that includes
so you Africans dying to come over here?
Services. You're not going to see any change, and unfortunately, we are starting to see a lot more people just
on the news.
I'm done. I don't pay what I pay to live in Portland, Seattle, San Francisco, to be surrounded.
Well, check out my videos, man. Check out my videos. Zoe Life. I'm showing you the same thing the news is showing you, but way better. You know what I mean? Showing you the same thing. ZONLIVE. This is America. Homelessness, poverty. Yeah, it's on the rise in America. I'm telling you, man. People are losing their job. They're losing their company, losing their family. It's crazy. So a lot of people are leaving America.
Yeah, and I am not surprised. I think this directly speaks to the massive disconnect from humanity that comes along with being a white-bodied individual. And like I was talking about in the video, I think, it's very telling when white people are like, why isn't anybody doing anything? And all the communities outside of whiteness are like, what the fuck do you mean? Why aren't you doing anything as a white person? And then the response is, I don't know what to do. There's nothing I can do. We are not, as a white collective, built for this shit. We as a collective do not have the survival skills, the community, the regulation skills, the mental health, the conflict resolution skill. We don't have any of that. And so this is what, again, pushes us further back into our own individualism. And the thing, I talked about this at a different platform yesterday, but our individualism not only will kill us, but it is in fact killing everyone else right now, because our collective individualism has pushed us into complacency. And the wild thing is, I know that response that you gave is not only the truth, but white people would hear that and take offense to it, right? And then simultaneously want to say, hey, I got a fucking blue bracelet, or I'm safe. But then the response is, oh, nobody cares, nobody likes me, why would you say that? Like, we're just in a constant state of panic and meltdown. And I think, for allies, accomplices, again, whatever fucking buzzword it is this week, the rubber is meeting the road. And I think so many white people are saying, that they gave themselves that label that actually didn't mean shit. Because I can performatively on this app all day say, you know, I stand with the black community, I stand in solidarity with all these other communities. And then when shit gets real hard, we're like, oh, let me protect myself first and foremost, and still try to pretend like I care for everyone else. That's not how it goes. And our complete lack of humanity and our inability to be empathetic to anybody outside of ourselves, and barely towards ourselves at times, is so clear. And I know it's clear to every other community outside of whiteness, but I think there's a lot of white people that we're looking at each other like, what the fuck? I thought you cared. Oh, I thought you cared. I thought you cared. I don't know what to do. What are we gonna do? And white supremacy is coming crashing down. And the outcomes of that is violence towards everyone else that doesn't look like me. While at the same time, that individualism that most white people choose is collectively suffocating everybody.
Why, oh why do poor white people vote against themselves time and time again? They vote for Trump and the other MAGA politicians only to have every promise broken, prices go up, social supports evaporate. Here's why. First, remember what I talked about recently, the psychological wage of whiteness. That term was coined by W.E. Du Bois to describe poor white folks being paid with social status rather than decent living conditions. They're convinced by the elites that they're better than black folks, better than immigrants, Latinos, LGBTQ folks. They're convinced that being white puts them in the same league as the elites. Of course, the elites know otherwise, but the poor whites buy it because they're grasping at straws. Second, they are convinced that the people they're supposedly better than are the big threat in their lives. Not the rich, not the corporations or the politicians, but immigrants.
Hello, brothers and sisters. Welcome back to the channel. I'm hoping that you are doing great. Now, what I like to say that is so much inevitable, and I think this is not just a topic of discussion, but it's something that as it's been confirmed and it's there and everyone is saying it, is that the United States has crumbled. And there are a couple of stages that the United States has gone through. There is a new beginning of a new era where everything will have to reset and everything will come back new. We are seeing today, people don't take the United States serious as it used to be. How the world views the United States today is different from how the world viewed the United States back then. We have countries like China that are posing threats economically to the United States. But these are geopolitical fights. These are things that are affecting the United States. Let's talk about the structural things inside the United States that often was being overlooked. And people usually thought that this problem will never happen to them. You see, initially, white folks thought that poverty won't get them. They thought that when you're a white person, you can never be at a problem that involves finance. But it's true. That was the truth. But remember the divide that happened during the Bacons Rebellion. I usually refer to the Bacons Rebellion during the 18th because you understand that that's where this illusion was created. And that's the part of the problem that white people are having today. Remember the problem with the United States, even today, and even where we are seeing the United States falling, is because of racism. Racism is so much expensive, and I think they came to learn how racism is expensive, and this is how it's expensive. I'm going to be taking you back to history during the 18th and trying to make you understand this. Remember, during the Bacons Rebellion, there was so much unity between white people and black people. Of course, there were issues of classism. There were issues of class, proletariats and the bourgeoisie, right? And so you understand that poor white people and poor black people were so much in solidarity. They were so much in solidarity and they were the majority. And so they worked freely. They found ways to support themselves. They lobbied. They protested. They needed all this change that we were seeing. But now the elites, both black and white elites, they sat down and they saw, these people are going to be becoming powerful. So what can we do to stop them from being powerful? Now let's create an illusion. And the illusion was whiteness. And that's how they created the illusion. So I'm going to be explaining to you until where racism has got in the United States today. Let's get back to the story. Now, they decided to sit down and create an illusion. And how did they create this illusion? They created the illusion to first make sure that white people felt greater than black people. Two, they also wanted to make it to be appealing to be a white person. Remember, white people never saw themselves as much as appealing. In fact, colors was created that time. That's where the color whiteness was created. And that's where white people knew, oh, this is so much appealing as compared to this. That's where they came up with eugenics. That's where during the 18th, they came with all those things. And so there was so much segregation because now they started giving white people privileges that they didn't give black people. And so it was white people above black people. And so that's how it happened. So this is the thing. When it all came down to factors that really matter, they decided to make it that because they were afraid that if black people and white people came together and protested, there will be so much problem. And so they divided them and created racism and created whiteness. And that's how they came with whiteness. And so when they came with whiteness, that's how it really affected them. Fast forward today, same thing. The corporates, the oligarchs lied to white people that they'll give them everything that they need. They'll give them food. They'll make sure that they've chased immigrants out of this country so that you can have the privilege that you're right now enjoying. I'm hoping you are enjoying the privilege right now. So you see the lies, how it got played and how it worked for them very, very well. That's how all these things came to happen. That's how all these things came in place. And that's how it happened. And so looking at how these things unfolds, looking at how these things came to be, you understand that indeed there was so much divide. And it has caused white Americans even today. Right now they are learning that racism is expensive. Because again, the same lies that they were sold during that time is the same lies that they have been given this time. So if you ask what makes it different, there is nothing that makes it different. Because even today, the United States know that if immigrants, black people, poor white folks came together, they'll be so much powerful. And so the poverty that you say is striking everyone right now, the high cost of living that you see is happening right now, is as a result of racism. It's as a result of the divide that was done. It was as a result of this polarization that they want you to have so that you don't get focus. Why don't they release the Epstein files? Because we are focusing on you as a person. And white people were played. They were duped real bad. I hope they learned from the mistakes that they made. And I hope that come in future, they'll make the right decisions, right? And so, brothers and sisters, thank you for taking your time and watching this video. I'm your host and presenter, Agent Stories. But until then, let me see you in my next video. Peace, love, and harmony. Salute.